Hello, Sherlock here with Elementary Airsoft, and today we're starting probably a overly long series on talking about looking at the Silverback SRS, or Silverback Desrtech SRS, and particularly working with the Mancraft SDIK, which is sort of a mechanical HPA engine for this gun, as well as particularly, if we take a look at this one here, how I managed to fit and mount in a internalized, within the stock and the butt pads here, CO2 adapter and regulator. So just to give a brief overview here, on my Silverback SRS lightweight, this is number 74 if anybody's interested or keeping track of whoever has whatever, but so in here we are using the Wolverine Wraith CO2 adapter. This is basically essentially like the same one that they would put in to like VSRs and other stuff. It's a standalone one. It isn't the one that's the buttstock mount, but it's the same technology. So you put your CO2 cap in, you can lock it in, and then sharp twist punctures the cartridge. Now, down here on the bottom, I'll grab something to point with here. We have in here, we have our regulator adjustment here via Allen key, and this little silver dot here, that is a bleed valve, so we can bleed the system of excess air. So at the end of the day, or you notice your FPS start dropping, you can go in and push that up, and that'll allow you to prematurely drain your remaining CO2, so you can remove this cap and change that early if you wanted to. And the big thing there is because when it's pressurized, there's like 900 psi of pressure pushing back on this, so you can't really crack or vent it like you can with a typical CO2 adapter. Part of the reason too as well, quickly, why we went with this versus like your typical CO2 adapter here, is because this screws in up at the front end versus on the bottom end. There may be some that work out there that work similar to like your CO2 mag for a pistol or whatever, which is the Allen key screw on the bottom, but opted for this because it's a bit easier to quick change, and it's a really, honestly, it's a really simple and elegant design. And overall, if we compare it here to our stock SRS with the monopod, it sticks out just about half an inch more, so it isn't really going to interfere with anything. So to quickly, at least initially, go out over what really makes this possible, and I do apologize because I'm sort of building a video here that's showing around how to mod it, how to fit it, where the parts aren't all fully commercially available. So this is the top half. This cap right here is the top half of the Wolverine Wraith CO2 adapter. So this goes to ASA threads, so like the top of a paintball tank. And inside here is basically specific threads and a bearing surface for some O-rings, and then a standoff, and basically sort of a system of baffles to keep liquid CO2 from making it out of this unit, so it's just the CO2 gas. And here on my other hand is what I was able to work with a really talented individual, a pretty great machinist who was able to help me make some of these parts. It's incredibly hard, at least I've found it, to find a machinist or even a local machinist to work on, I guess, smaller custom ideas, and he honestly did an amazing job. Huge shout out to him if you're watching. They really work great, but basically this, instead of our clunky ASA adapter here, allows the output to come out at a right angle. So this top bit threads into the receiver, air comes out here, down into the reg, out the side of the reg, and up into the HPA engine. And our reg is a polymers per shoot shop Boulder. Pebble? Boulder. I think it's a Boulder. But that's fitting there with some small line and a T so we can get our bleed valve. So that is what we'll be covering. So far my tests has shown that, you know, with this internalized setup, I'm not really losing any of the consistency that I'd get off the reg with CO2. Over the course of the CO2 cartridge, you do see some slow, gradual decrease in FPS over time as you drain it. But in general, because you're shooting from shot to shot, you don't really notice it, and or it doesn't affect your accuracy because the amount that your shot might change from one to another is so minute you don't even notice it, but you naturally account for it because you know when you're shooting at a target how it's falling within the sight. So overall it's pretty good. And to quick talk on why you would want to go with the Mancraft SDIK. So normally your bolt pull would come all the way back to about here, this little cutout. So if you have the weapon shouldered and you cheeked and looking through your scope, when you would pull this back, it would hit your face, or your hand would hit your face as you pull it back. So by going with the Mancraft SDIK here, it's not only an incredibly light bolt pull, it's a really short one. So you can stay looking through the scope, stay on target without bashing yourself in the face. And it's a really light, easy pull for easy cycling. And the other really nice part about going with HPA on a sniper, different fields have different FPS limits, different laws, or even different events on different fields may vary. So you can just simply adjust the FPS or adjust your pressure to adjust your FPS to meet whatever regulations for whatever event you're attending. And to me, yes, this, I will forewarn you, this was, I guess, this sort of setup in here was a lot more expensive than the externalized one here on my first SRS. But to me, it's honestly worth it because it keeps it cleaner and it doesn't look out of place. It looks like it could have been there to start with. So I honestly really like it. And so let's start, go ahead and get into it, and I'll show you basically how and where we need to make modifications, and I'll walk you through modifying how I went through and modified my limited edition SRS here, as well as call out or show off some of the neater things about this, because it is a really cool and unique gun. I honestly wish that they would have made this as a more common pattern, because I think it is absolutely stunning and amazing, but maybe they will produce more in the future, who knows. So real quick, let's go over what's going on inside, and then we can dive into starting work or showing you what modifications need to be made. So in here we have a couple of custom pieces. So this is the bottom half of your Wolverine CO2 cartridge adapter. Here we have the Mancraft, I think they call it that part, the needle of the SDIK. 1032 low profile T, 1032 extension, 1032 bleed valve, and 1032 to 530 seconds or 4mm quick push to connect fitting. Here we have the rock, or is it the micro rock? The reg. We have two outputs on the sides. These are 1/8 NPT. I have to rotate it 90 degrees and basically make a flat spot, drill and tap for 1032, because like I said, they stopped making 1032 flat output regs. Here we have our custom machine piece, and this is really the key to the whole operation here, because the stock, let me grab it real quick. sorry about that. So the stock top half here was an ASA adapter. So if you wanted to, I guess, do this natively, then you have to go to ASA and then ASA to some other output. And then, I mean, look how high we are. We're almost a full 2 inches more than where this output is here. So basically, I was fortunate enough to find somebody else who was able to basically machine me a part that would properly interface with both the receiver of the gun here, so it threads into the monopod mount, and all the receivers do have monopod threading, even the sport line. They just don't have the monopod to help cut cost. So basically made me this part, which mimics all the functionality of this, so you can still, you know, loosen this guy, adjust for the height of your CO2 cartridge so you get a good puncture. It still punctures well, and it has 1/8 NPT output. I made sort of a custom length long street elbow to accept our regulator there. Outputs on the side, so technically too, if you wanted, you could drill a hole through the side of the gun, pull out this plug, and then put in a 1/8 NPT pressure gauge on the side. For me, I wanted to try and keep it clean and is looking as minimal as possible, and I think with that it's relatively been achieved. Like I said, you only have 3/4 inch of like this knurled nut sticking out the bottom, and previously you had already sort of a knurled texture down there, so I think it looks really good, unobtrusive. All the space in here too acts, and this sort of U-shape will also help prevent liquid CO2 from migrating through the system, as well as allow for some expansion chamber or air space for the CO2 to expand. Here's the spot you can see where I flattened it and tapped that piece, and I think that's about it. The biggest thing and the biggest pain in the butt with this whole project was sort of getting the right combinations of fittings to get everything to fit together as I wanted it to, and then removing the material from the stock, because the stock is just slightly narrower than the 1 inch that most of this is at the thickest, and it's a bit thicker here where we have the sort of, I guess, like height adjustment nut. So pulling this aside, they don't need you anymore. We'll take a quick look and go over a couple of spots where we need to remove material on this build. So, the stock, I guess I'll use a screwdriver to point. So basically the hole there's natively a hole here where the monopod would sit, as well as some notches here that were only, you know, it's for this, which is like, what, 1/2 inch diameter, a little bit more. So you needed to expand those out, remove almost half the thickness of the body panel here to support the larger diameter, and hollow out this region some. And then same where the regulator here, because you see it bevels to get bigger up at the sort of head of it. So I also removed some material here. And then on the teeth for the butt plate pieces, I've removed all but the bottom and the top ones, really. This one, I guess, sinking up from the bottom, has a little bit on it. Then butt plate wise, the one closest to the gun, I've had to pretty much remove everything, bevel our edges here. Okay, so to go over quickly, all the sort of body work that needs to be done, and this is realistically one of the more time-consuming parts. Basically the whole channel where this monopod used to previously sit has to get ground down about to almost half thickness and about a 1 inch radius or just over. That's to accommodate, because like between the interior distance between the two side panels of the stock is like 0.89 or 0.9 inches, and this is 1 inch, and it gets even a bit wider here. that and between, you know, physical accuracy when doing this with a hand tool is not perfect. Just to have a little bit of wiggle room so that things will slot in as expected. Here, there's a ton of material to remove. There's normally 3 levels, and once I take apart the other SRS, I can show you a bit of side-by-side comparison of before and after, before I start work there. Also, the butt pad spacers and the butt pad itself. So the first one, all the notches in between the top and the bottom are removed. I beveled and removed material on the inside, removed some material up here. And this is the one with the hole in it. I also removed material, I think in between here some, so that I think it's it. I might actually notch this all the way through, but I think that little piece there is adding a bit of stability. Second spacer is more so removing the area in between, and it gets a little bit wider, particularly where that output valves are. And in part this was due to some experimentation with some other fittings. I was trying to use something that went right into the 1/8 NPT, so I didn't have to modify this, but that worked, but it also negated my ability to use a bleed valve, so that's was not preferred for me. So then these 2 pieces go together, and if you wanted to, you could use a third, you know, as many butt pad spacers as you did, but the screw head of our T stuck out a little bit more, so then I removed a little bit more material in here. But otherwise the butt pad remains unaffected, and 2, if you're using a third plate, then you just sort of do the same thing on that third plate. But that's all those together. I'll go over how these secure on when I'm walking through the modification steps on the silver SRS there. So that's the long and short of what our goal is. Custom parts and a little bit of creativity and a lot of patience and time with a Dremel or a rotary tool is all that it takes. Personally, I used a combination of this bit, which is actually a saw blade, which is 1 inch in diameter, conveniently, sanding drums, half moon file, but the body is a nylon fiber polymer. It's actually pretty tough for plastic. It's going to take a while. It's going to make a mess. Biggest thing is be careful, be cautious, go slowly so you don't accidentally poke through the body. Because from here you cannot tell that half the material is missing. There's no white stress marks, nothing. So take it easy and you should be fine. Now while I'm at it here, I'll quick give or show you what the Mancraft SDIK looks like for the SRS and explain briefly how it works. So here we have Mancraft SDIK. This, I got a new one for the new gun. So here we have the whole kit and caboodle. So this piece here is pretty much a spacer that goes inside your cylinder tube. This is the main part of the engine. And here's your airline or remote line. And this is your air delivery system. So looking at it, it may be a little bit confusing at what's going on. So I have this wonderful, if I can get the camera straight. Hang on a second. My apologies. There we go. So this is pretty much describing what is inside this tube here. So to pull this out, so this is this piece. So on our feeling needle, I believe, as Mancraft calls it, we have a hole here. This is where air comes out. So there is a spring, and you have options between a lighter spring and a heavier spring. normally pushes this forward. So at rest or uncocked, our hole sits here between two sets of O-rings that hold tightly around here. So here and here, so the air can't go out and go anywhere. When you cock it, this slides back, compresses the spring, and our hole moves into this area. This is your air chamber. So that then fills up that air with 100 psi or whatever your regulator is set to. And it also, at this point, these O-rings up here seal around this guy on the front end of the needle, which holds this chamber closed. And in particular too, this tube is basically a spacer, so you can use a chunk of this to reduce the volume in here to sort of optimize the amount of air that's stored and or released. So now when the gun fires, the back of this, you see it has a bevel here. It still catches on the sear of your gun like a normal bolt action or spring normally would. It's just a lot lighter spring. So this is here. This slides forward. So up here, this, which is sealed between that O-ring, comes back and opens it up so all that air can rush out at once. So basically you're pulling this, I don't know, about 1/8 inch plug and instantly draining this large volume of air. And you may be like, well, with this sliding around and or sitting in the bolt, that's going to leak. That's what this is for. So basically, on the forward stroke, this sits in the front end of your cylinder, and this sort of, I guess, sits behind it. So this is going to come up, and this O-ring here seals in here at the point when this passes those O-rings and starts releasing the air. So this seals to the outside of the cylinder, this seals to the inside of that, so you have a complete airtight system. When your air releases, goes up, the nozzle pushes the BB out. So it's actually a very simple and honestly pretty basic but ingenious system. And to get this in there, I'll go over that when putting it together, but these two halves screw or unscrew. But that's, in short, how it works. It's basically a pre-measured dump tank that's just actuated by how you normally actuate your bolt. And that's, in short, too, how any of the Mancraft SDIKs work. The PDIKs, those guys are different. But that's sort of that explained. So let's pull up the gun that we'll be working on here. And can pull that apart. Also, for anyone who is curious or paying attention or is into that sort of thing, this is serial number 74 out of 100. This is the limited edition SRS lightweight. I was fortunate enough to get one of the last ones that I could actually find from Asia. And it's basically all over. It's been milled out, machined to minimize weight. It's recently been a bit of a kick of mine, is going for the lighter weight builds, and it is absolutely beautiful and well made, and we can go over at least a few of those points once I get it apart to show you some more of the interesting reductions inside. So I'll cut the camera now and I'll take it apart so we can get to the guts of this.